Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Hopland ADA Open House. My name is Mendocino Machado, and I'm the Caltrans Public Information Officer for Lake and Mendocino counties. Before we get started, I would like to go over some housekeeping items for this evening's open house. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and we want to keep the meeting around an hour, but we'll make sure to get everyone's questions answered. And please note, tonight's meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on the Caltrans District 1 website. A question and answer session will follow at the end of the presentation. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand so the host and co-host are notified. Your question or comments will be heard in the order of hands raised. If you are dialing into the open house meeting, you can use *3 to raise your hand. Now, during the Q&A session, there will be 3 minutes allotted for each attendee's questions or comments. If you have a particular question on the slide, please note the slide numbers so the appropriate project development team member can respond to your question. Moving to the next slide for the Title VI statement. Caltrans ensures that no person in the state of California is excluded from participation and denied the benefits of or otherwise subject to discrimination in Caltrans programs, policies, procedures, activities, and services on the grounds of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. Let's now begin tonight's open house presentation of the ADA project for Hopland with project manager Mike Camash. Mike, take it away.
Mike, if you're talking and we're not hearing you.
I'm so sorry. Good afternoon. We are very happy to present to you Caltrans Hopland ADA project, ADA American Disability Act. I am the project manager and my name is Mike Camash. Project location. Here is next slide, please. Here is the top-down view showing the project limits on Highway 101 from North Belize Creek Bridge to about a quarter of a mile north of First Street. Some work will also be done along Highway 175 and intersecting with 101, which includes island, crosswalks, and underground culverts. In terms of project history, the result of 2015 transportation feasibility study are as follows. Need to minimize the Hopland Main Street corridor on US 101 and provide a complete streets environment. The study shows that there are mobility challenges and to access public facilities, local streets, and local businesses and local stores. And existing data and the community feedback were used to determine the optimal transportation alternatives for Hopland. Next slide. The purpose and need of this project is upgrade existing ADA pedestrian facilities to meet current standards and achieving ADA pedestrian compliance. Additionally, upgrade the following items to a good condition, which is the fair roadway pavement, aging signage, transportation management system, and drainage. Construction cost for this project is around $10.8 million. Next slide. We come to the schedule of this project. We are in the environmental phase, and we are supposed to be completing the permits and the environmental phase by June 2022. We are going to start right-of-way work July 2022. Begin advertising for bids October 2024. Start of construction estimated to be in spring 2025. Construction is scheduled for 1 season, but if we run into obstacles, it may take 2 seasons. So estimated completion is December 2026. And I'll hand it now to the design team. Please, George. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is George Tokmakov. I'm the design senior with Caltrans North region for the Hopland ADA project. Next slide. This slide shows the proposed street view of the project from Mountain House Road to First Street. As you can see, the numbers 1 through 5 show, number 1, sidewalk will be 5 to 8 feet wide. Number 2, parallel parking and shoulders will be 8 feet wide. Number 3, bike lanes will be 5 feet wide. Number 4 and 5, traffic lanes and two-way left turn lane will be 11 feet wide. The sidewalk improvements, street parallel parking, and bike lanes will help create foot traffic for businesses in the area. In addition, the following improvements will be made: ADA curb ramps, standard driveways, bulb outs, traffic count station, and real-time monitoring system. Next slide. Here are some photos of places in town you're very familiar with, where there are no accessible sidewalks, no curb ramps, or curb ramps that are not to standard. Here you can see a couple of renderings of standard curb ramps and crossings. The top one is for the existing and the bottom one is for proposed. Next slide. Bulb outs will be designed to help shorten the distance pedestrians will have to travel to cross the streets. Bulb outs will also help drivers see the pedestrians using the crosswalk so they can reduce their speed. The crosswalk slopes will be flattened and brought to ADA standards. Next slide. Here are some shots of drainage inlets and localized flooding in Hopland downtown that need improvements. Upgrading the drainage facilities will help prevent curbside flooding. Underground culverts will be improved to provide more efficient drainage, and new inlets will allow water to be drained without causing debris blockage. Next slide. Here's the construction strategy. The section identified on the map in purple shows full depth roadway reconstruction between Mountain House Road and First Street. This will include correcting the roadway profile and bank. These corrections will improve safety at the crossing and crosswalks. The section identified on the map in yellow will have pavement overlay to provide smooth roadway surface. Next slide. And next up is Jeff Wright from construction.
You're muted, Jeff.
Sorry, I must have hit it twice. I thought I was unmuted. Good evening. I'm Jeffrey Wright. I'm the area construction engineer for Mendocino County for Caltrans, and I'm here to present the construction portion of this presentation. Next slide, please. During construction, we anticipate that there will be various challenges, and we're proposing solutions to those challenges. Some of the challenges we've identified are that we will have community concerns regarding construction impacts to local businesses and residences. There will be impacts to businesses and pedestrian access for businesses and local residences. We will have ADA constricted areas that we'll need to pay attention to, and the existing road grade has a steep side slope. Some of the solutions we've identified is we will provide temporary pedestrian access routes, or TPARs as we call them, by constructing temporary bounded areas as shown in the photo with these white and orange barriers. This was a photo from the town of Willits that was recently constructed a few years ago that worked very effectively at routing pedestrians around the active work areas. We will also have a restricted work sequence that will help facilitate minimal disruption to parking for the local businesses and residences. We'll have a community outreach plan and schedule coordination. Next slide, please. The estimated construction start date will be spring of 2025, as Mike mentioned earlier. It's anticipated that the approximate duration for the project will be between 6 and 9 months of construction, although it will have the potential, if we run into unforeseen conditions, to roll over into a subsequent year. We also anticipate that there'll be traffic control throughout the life of the project that will consist of various types of traffic control, either reversing traffic control with flaggers, lane reduction to facilitate traffic flowing both directions by utilizing the center turn lane as a traffic lane. We'll have moving lane closures for striping and marker application on the final pavement lifts, and then we'll have shoulder closures and sidewalk closures to facilitate the various sidewalk and curb ramp improvements. Next slide, please. The temporary pedestrian access routes, as we touched on, will allow for planning of mobile access ramps we're planning on constructing mobile access ramps to access businesses and residences while the sidewalk is removed and replaced. As you can see in these photos from the town of Willits, we had the temporary pedestrian access routes with the white and orange barriers as shown. And then the wooden gangplank as shown in the right photo will be a temporary access over the active work area that'll be built from the temporary pedestrian access route to the business front or home front or walkway as required. We will be addressing pedestrian accesses by using these types of structures, and we will also cordon off the area of active construction with these temporary pedestrian access routes to facilitate construction vehicle access for equipment and concrete trucks, etc. We'll also maintain allowable grade tolerances for cross slopes of these facilities to comply with ADA. Next slide, please. We will have a restricted work sequencing, and this is a hypothetical example that is crafted to show what we intend to do. We'll be limiting the work area of the contractor into sequences and stages, and we will have T-bars and parking for these various sections, and the project will be broken up into segments. As you can see, we've delineated different colors in 1, 2, and 3, and these would be proposed stages 1, 2, and 3 to progress through town. We would allow the contractor to work on 2 sidewalks that are adjacent for efficiency of their construction and have catty corner as shown in red. And then we would skip a block as shown in blue and green, or 2 blocks, 1 or 2 blocks depending upon the side of the street. And then we would allow another catty corner block to be constructed. And this would be done sequencing, so they would do all the red first and then all the blue next and all of the green after that. And the contractor schedule would dictate how many consecutive blocks that they have open. The intent is to limit the disruption to the public and the businesses by allowing the parking to occur in the unworked on blocks, and hopefully only have a block or 2 maximum walking distance to get to the respective businesses that are impacted by the active construction. I will, as stated in the slide here, avoid working in adjacent segments, and we'll have advanced coordination from the on the field team to the local business owners and residences. Next slide, please. We will also try to improve communication with the community by having a community outreach plan. We know that we will have a pre-construction open house meeting where we'll put all the plans on the walls so the community can come and see what the proposed improvements are and ask questions of the Caltrans team so they can have a better understanding of what we're doing at each individual location in town. Throughout the life of the project, we'll have social media updates and flyers posted around town to try to give increased communication with the community. And we'll also have an advanced notification system where we will have and a member of the Caltrans team and contractors team contacting the local businesses 48 hours in advance. We'll work with scheduling and conveying that to the public. And in advance of the project, we'll have right-of-way coordination for the affected properties and businesses that will have the sidewalk built in front of their facility. Next slide, please. As mentioned, we will have schedule coordination and provide advance notification to the affected businesses and residences. We will have door-to-door notification and outreach from the Caltrans lead inspector and the contractor's foreman. The intent is to have them visit each individual residence and business a minimum of 48 hours in advance of the work occurring in front of their business. And we will endeavor to develop interpersonal relationships and accountability between the Caltrans and contractors team and the local business owners and residence owners. We'll also have a 24-hour contact telephone number where you can leave a message with any concerns or questions you may have. And we will try to post ongoing 3-week schedule updates via social media or other formats to try to keep people apprised of what the upcoming work will be. Next slide, please. We know that emergency evacuation and traffic safety is paramount importance to Caltrans and to the community. And so as part of the contract, we will work with the contractors and the local emergency services to develop an emergency evacuation plan that will be coordinated so that in the event that we have active traffic control going on when an emergency occurs, we will know how to respond to that and open up the highway just as soon as feasible. We will educate traffic control and flaggers that if there's an emergency vehicle coming into the queue, that they will have priority and they'll stop all other traffic to facilitate the passage of those emergency vehicles. And we'll have advanced coordination with all the individual emergency services, whether it be fire department, sheriff's office, or medical ambulance services, etc. Next slide, please. Next, I'll pass the presentation off to Julie Price, the environmental coordinator for the project. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Price. I'm the environmental coordinator for this project, and I'm going to share a brief overview of the environmental review process for this project. This exhibit shows how environmental review is woven throughout the life of the Caltrans project. The green sign shows that we're in the environmental review phase. This phase also includes preliminary design work, the work that we shared with you tonight in an earlier section of this presentation. We've also completed the environmental studies needed to evaluate the project impact on the environment. We've prepared a draft environmental document, and we've circulated the draft environmental document for public comment. The public comment period ends on May 4th, and at that point, we will review the comments received along with any additional information we receive, and we will prepare a final environmental document. We anticipate the final environmental document will be approved by the end of June. After that, the project can move on to other phases and ultimately to construction. And environmental involvement continues during construction, where we monitor construction activities for compliance with the environmental measures that are part of the project. Next slide, please. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, the project needs to go through an environmental review process to evaluate potential impacts to the environment. The analysis of these impacts is included in the environmental document. It is, in fact, the core of that document. Under CEQA, the type of document prepared for this project is an initial study with negative declaration. Under NEPA, the project qualifies for a categorical exemption. The CEQA, or State Environmental Review Process, for the Hopland ADA project has found that the project would have no significant impacts on the environment, and therefore no mitigation is required. The NEPA, or Federal Review Process, will be done at the same at the time of the final environmental document. Okay, so this list here identifies the 20 subject areas of potential environmental impact that we must evaluate during the environmental review process. Of the 20, Caltrans has determined that the project will have no impact on 17 of them. We've also determined that the project will have a less than significant impact on 3 of these areas. And as stated previously, the project will have no significant impacts on any environmental resources. As you might imagine, environmental impacts are minimal for this project for several reasons. The scope of the project is to improve existing infrastructure. It doesn't include expanding the corridor beyond its existing footprint. The location of the project is in a developed urban setting that's been previously disturbed by highway and downtown infrastructure. So we're dealing with the already disturbed built environment. And then finally, Caltrans uses standard measures and best management practices we incorporate into our projects early on in order to minimize impacts or avoid them altogether. And the analysis for these determinations is contained in the draft environmental document, which is posted on the Hopland ADA website, which we'll show you here in just a moment. Next slide, please. So please make sure to submit your comments to us in writing by May 4th. We ask that you submit your comments to this email address on the screen, hoplandada@dot.ca.gov. We recommend that you visit the project webpage where you can sign up for project updates. Like I said, you can also access the draft environmental document there. And you can also follow the project and other District 1 projects on social media, Facebook and Instagram. So this concludes our presentation, and we will now open the floor up for questions and comments. I'll turn it back over to Manny, who will moderate that session for us. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks a lot, Julie. As a reminder, tonight's meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on the Hopland webpage via the Caltrans District 1 website. We'll now begin our question and answer session. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand so the host and co-host are notified. Your question or comment will be heard in the order of hands raised. If you're dialing into the open house meeting, you can use the *3 to raise your hand. During the Q&A session, there will be 3 minutes allotted for each attendee's question or comments. If you have a particular question on a slide, we hope that you made mention of that slide, and so our appropriate project development team member can respond to your question. All right, with that said, let's open it up to the audience for questions. Please raise your hand and we'll get started. All right, and while we wait questions from the audience, we did receive a question from social media, and the question was, is Caltrans going to build a bypass around Hopland?
Probably if Alexei can comment on this. Or Brad. Brad, would you like to comment on this?
Sure, Mike, I'll take that because as many people know, there was a study done a long time ago to look at a potential alternative route around Hopland. What I can tell you right now is that's not in any of our plans, and we would not be looking at it again unless the county and the city or the community of Hopland asked us to look at it. Otherwise, no.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Brad. And for members of the audience in attendance tonight, using WebEx for this meeting, if you don't know how to raise your hand, just hover over your cursor next to your name, click on it, and that will allow us to be notified and answer your question. So again, we're waiting for questions from the audience for tonight's Hopland ADA meeting. And also, you can put in the chat your question, just type in your question, and we'll see it, and we'll also answer those questions from the public. So you can also use that option as well for the meeting tonight. So enter your questions in chat, or also raise your hand by pressing *3 if you are on your phone tonight, and we will answer all your questions that you have for the Hopland ADA project. All right, and while we're waiting, there was another social media question. The question was, will any of the construction happen on the weekends? Will it happen, on evenings or weekends? So if somebody could answer that question.
Jeffrey, can you please handle this one?
Yes, this is Jeffrey Wright again. Yeah, at this juncture, it's unknown whether or not the contractor will elect to work weekends or not. We typically write the contract so that the contractor works a 5-day work week, and that'll be Monday through Friday typically. But depending upon the lane closure restrictions that are determined as the project evolves, there may be some need for weekend work, or if the contractor gets behind schedule, they may elect to work Saturdays and or Sundays, depending upon the convenience of the work shift. As an example, if we're working night work, they may start at in the evening on Sunday and work through to Monday morning. So those are hypothetical examples of possible weekend work that could occur on the project.
All right, then I do believe that David Morgan would also like to respond to this.
Yeah, thanks, Manny. My name is David Morgan. I'm the traffic safety chief for Caltrans as well as the ADA engineer. I just wanted to add to Jeff's comments on the work. The work is typically done 5 days a week, but if you've got changes that you want out there that we don't know about, I do entertain those. For instance, when we were doing 4th Street in Eureka, I came to several driveways that weren't driveways anymore. They'd go into the side of buildings or they'd go into other things, and I would just basically change the project at that point and say, okay, we're not going to make this a driveway anymore. We're going to make this a walkway, or if there's any public concerns with things that we need to change out there, we need to kind of hear about it. And then the other thing I'd like to add to Jeff's piece is typically when I see these ADA jobs, or well, I'm the ADA engineer, so I'm out there all the time, but typically when they come through town and the sequencing that Jeff had mentioned, they typically work either the left side of the road the whole way down the town and then come back and work the right side. So that when you see the sequencing, because it's just easier to handle traffic on one side or the other. So they don't jump back and forth. Typically they could, but that would be more of a traffic nightmare. So we typically concentrate on one side, go through the town, and then we go through the other town. That's all I wanted to add at this point, Manny. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Another question we have is, what is the purpose? Why is this project needed for Hopland?
Well, this is David again. I guess I should answer that, or at least Mike would probably say I should answer that. The ADA jobs are, I mean, it's something that we are required, we as in the state of Caltrans is required to bring all curb ramps and then sidewalks, curb ramps and driveways into compliance right now. Eventually, we will bring all sidewalks into compliance. Most sidewalks in most towns, and they're obviously not ADA compliant, and we need to get all the states right away and stuff into compliance. And so you've got really rounded roads in Hopland due to all the paving over the years. So we're going to try to take care of it through this job right here. And then we have a subsequent job that hasn't been talked about. Mike knows about, most people in here know about it. They're in Caltrans. Is I've initiated another, I don't know, 10 or $15 million job to cover the area south from the bridge there down to the Green Bridge. So we're going to put a left turn pocket, some other stuff in that area, widen shoulder. So we've got another project that's adjacent to this one that's pushed back a little further. So I'm covering that area as well, trying to get you guys covered and to get your stuff fixed up. So hopefully that should help. Thanks, Manny.
Yeah, appreciate it. And again, if you do have a question, please raise your hand or press *3, and we'll get your questions answered. Also, a reminder, you can get more information on the Hopland ADA project by going to the Caltrans District 1 website. Also, you can email the website at hoplandada@dot.ca.gov. And any questions, if you want to reach us that way, you can do that. But again, on the Caltrans District 1 website, we have much more information on the Hopland ADA project. All right, and I will again look at the room and see if we have any more questions.
*3 or something.
Okay, it does look like we do have a question, and I see Ron. Go ahead.
Wondering about Center Street and other parking. We rely on a lot of street parking on 101. So will Center Street be blocked off? And what about parking behind the building and access to parking behind our building and Mendocino?
Jeff, would you like to handle this, or David?
Manny, would you, for this question?
I'll attempt to try to answer it. As I understand it, you have a parking on Highway 101 adjacent to Center Street that you rely on. Is that your discussion or question?
Right. Yeah, we're at the Hopland Tap, so a lot of people pull down Center Street and park behind the building and come in the back way. So I'm kind of wondering if what's the impact on Center Street, or will that be part of the repavement project?
So as part of the project, all of the pavement through town from Fleas Creek Bridge to just north of First Street will be paved at some point throughout the project. You know, right now we're still in the staging development part of the project, and then the contractor will have their own spin as to what they address first, whether they do all the sidewalk work first or all the pavement work first or some combination thereof. But at some point, Center Street will have some intermittent obstructions to it to allow the paving to occur. We will have the temporary pedestrian accesses in front of your building there while we are doing the sidewalk and curb ramp and bulb out improvements in those areas, so that the parking, you know, while we're actively working on that sidewalk section in front of your business will be impacted to facilitate the construction. But as we tried to talk about in a hypothetical example earlier, you know, hopefully the adjacent block on either side will not be being worked on at the same time as the block in front of your building will be being worked on. And so they'll be able to park hopefully no more than a block away and walk back to your business and utilize the temporary pedestrian access route and the gangplank as may or may not be appropriate for your situation to access your business front. You know, any parking that you have in the back of your building should be able to be maintained, because Center Street will be open for the majority of the construction, but there will be some necessary temporary closures while the paving goes on for the duration of the paving activity, until that pavement is cool. But, you know, for the most part, we're hoping to do that in half-width construction, utilizing flaggers. So hopefully it won't be closed in its entirety, but it'll just have intermittent reversible control with flaggers to facilitate access. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I
Yep.
can also chime in on that. Is pretty much we're on the, we're not going to close Center Street for any long durations. As you can see on the picture here, we've got 4 bulb outs at Center Street. So let's say they do the ones on the left first, and it could affect that Center Street for a little while, but not for long. So what's going to happen, Ron, is they don't typically, it would be very unusual for them to do the paving first, because what they do is they go out, go to the existing sidewalk, goes 1.5 to 2 foot out, saw cut the asphalt, remove it, and then they would demo the sidewalk and the curb ramp, and then they come back and pour in the concrete and the bulb outs, and then put temporary asphalt patch or HMA back in that hole, that saw cut line. And then when they're all done with all the sidewalks and curb ramps through town, then the pavers will come through and remove all the temporary pavement and put down all brand new pavement, and then we go with the stripes. So if you've got a parking lot on Center Street on the backside, for the most part, it won't be interrupted.
Great. Thank you.
David, thank you for that. Ron, did you have any other questions?
As I look at the ramp of the street, is the other side by the Golden Pig going to have steps up to that sidewalk then? Is that what's on that one diagram where it shows stairs on one side going up?
George, you want to handle this?
No,
Mike,
I'll
yes.
handle it. There aren't any stairs going up because remember, Ron, this is an ADA job, so no stairs. It's like these are all ramps, and what that green stuff is there is the DWSs, the dome walking surfaces. I've got to have at least a 4 foot wide by 3 foot depth dome walking surface in each direction. So I see that maybe we have an animation or something we haven't played, but yeah, there aren't any steps in ADA world.
And it may be misleading with the cartoon that's shown on the page there. Some of the cross hatching to show various types of improvement may insinuate steps, or the piano keys for the crosswalk, as they're called, is a different type of crosswalk that'll be employed instead of just your 2 12-foot or 12-inch wide lines. Also, there is a taper and some detectable warning surfaces for people to utilize canes for their negotiation that may appear to be steps, and hopefully that helps clarify. as well.
Yeah, just one comment for design, since we're at this point, they shouldn't really be piano keys. Piano keys, they should be a conventional crosswalk, which is, yeah, piano keys and not ladders. Well, we'll note that in the design and get it corrected.
Thank you, David. We'll correct that.
All right. Thanks a lot, team, and thank you, Ron, for those questions. I did want to mention that the public comment period, you can comment until May 4th. That is the deadline. And again, you can get more information on the Hopland ADA project on the Caltrans District 1 website. Also, the email is hoplandada@dot.ca.gov. All right, and I'm looking at the room if we have any other questions from the public.
Shaq wants to do a run through the project, so if we can give him a chance, give him a couple of minutes.
Sure. All right, take it away.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaq. I'm the lead designer for this project. So as you guys can see, this is a fly-through view of the project. It shows right at the mountain house where we are proposing to have some type of island to reduce the crosswalk distance. This area shows the 175 intersection. So we are proposing to install island to reduce the crosswalk distance. As you guys can see, we also installed bulb out to kind of, again, reduce the distance. So this is the area where we have the 175 intersection. And throughout this portion would be more the overlay portion of the project. However, we are making the sidewalk ADA compliant. So we will work on the sidewalk in that stretch. And again, this area just going to shows the cross slope on the main line. It would be a 5% tilting to the, I guess, east side. So it would be a full 5% on one side. And again, so we are installing bulb out to reduce the crosswalk distance. And during this phase, we will also address some of the issue that with the existing drainage system. For example, some of the existing culverts are with the oldest standard, which is like 12-inch pipe. But when we replace those, we will bring those to the 18-inch pipe to convey the water and better efficiency. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Shaq. And again, I want to thank everybody tonight for tuning in for the Hopland ADA project. Again, this is your opportunity for questions, so we can get those answered by the team.
So Manny,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
one more comment for
Sure.
Ron. And that is typically when we do the bulb outs on the corner of, say, Center Street, you should already have red curves on the corners of intersections such that you're not really losing any parking, because we don't like cars to park right up tight to the intersections, because when cars try to pull out of, say, Center Street, if cars are tight right up against the intersection, it gets really tough trying to see around those cars. So generally, we're not losing parking on at intersections. Mid blocks another story, but blocks and blocks is another story. But intersections, we shouldn't be losing any parking. Go ahead, Manny.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Again, for the community, this is the opportunity to ask questions right now. If you are camera shy, you can also email at hoplandada@dot.ca.gov. Again, the public comment period, it ends on May 4th, and you can get more information on this Hopland ADA project by going to the Caltrans District 1 website, and we could get your questions answered that way as well. And I'm taking a look at the room to see if we do have any other questions from the public. And for right now, I do not see any hands raised, and just give the public just the opportunity right now, a chance to ask questions. And it appears that we don't. So I want to send it back to the project manager for Mike for any some last words on this project.
Well, yeah, thank you very much all. We really appreciate your time and attending this presentation. It's a great project that hope will serve the community well. And please remember, your comments need to be by May 4th on the website. So if you have any concerns, any comments, and we'll address them accordingly. And I want to thank the whole team that came here to present the project. And we have environmental, we have design, we have construction, we have planning, we have also different kinds of design, and we have also a representative from the county and your community, so the other organizations here. And thank you all. We really appreciate this opportunity and looking forward to completing this project as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, we want to again thank the public and everybody out there for tuning in tonight. This meeting is being recorded, and you can view the meeting on the website, on the Hopland ADA webpage. They'll be located on the Caltrans District 1 page. And again, the email for this project, for any questions, anything you want to answer, that email is hoplandada@dot.ca.gov.
And
All
I
right.
forgot to thank Manny and the BIO office, our public office, so public information. So thank you, Manny, very much for your help in this.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mariah Miracle behind the scenes for her assistance tonight. Couldn't do it without her. Again, thank you for everybody for tuning in and for this very important project with the Hopland ADA project. Thanks for joining us, and have a great evening.